My name is Jamie Dominguez, and I am the National Director of Industry Relations at the Mechanical Licensing Collective, the MLC, as we're better known. Tuning in from Brooklyn, New York. Actually, I'm actually home today, which is nice before I have to hit the road again tomorrow. But it is so lovely to be here and to be joined with a couple friends who I'm going to introduce momentarily. But this is April is Financial Literacy Month. So our purpose here today is really to just share some valuable insight with all of you, especially the creator community, hopefully to inspire and empower you to really take control of your financial future. And it's so hard in our industry because you are faced as creators with very unique challenges, but there are also within that very unique opportunities. So we're here today to really help you figure out the path and plan ahead and take advantage and maximize all of the revenue that you could potentially be making now and leverage that for your future, for that legacy, that long-term wealth. So without further ado, let's just get into it. I'm with the MLC. Just a quick, I think most of you know who we are because you're here, but just as a quick reminder, we are a nonprofit organization that was born out of the Music Modernization Act of 2018, and we were charged with the mission to collect and pay streaming royalties to all of you songwriters and rights holders out there. And that is really what we're here to do. So in our 5-year existence, we have I think we have close to 55,000 members, and we've paid out 3 billion plus in royalties in that time. So it's working, but the work never ends because songwriters are never going to stop writing songs, and you're never going to stop existing. And so this is just going to keep happening. And it's important for us to keep educating, which is why we're here today. So joining me today are two brilliant guests, Janine McLean and Tehran Tidwell. I'm just gonna read their bios because I don't want to miss anything. And they have like, these both of these people in my mind are just some of they're at the top of the game and really have seen a lot and can impart so much wisdom to all of you. So Janine McLean is an entertainment industry veteran and president of artist management company MBK Entertainment Inc., which has developed, managed, and engineered the careers for a variety of superstars, including Alicia Keys, Tyrese, K. Michelle, Tiara Thomas, Tone Stith, Elle Varner, her, and international superstar Omarion, just to name a few. With an expertise in branding, she has brokered deals with various brands such as L'Oreal, Adidas, Nike, Revolve, and others, working with various artists even outside of the company roster. Janine is also CEO of her own media company, Castlight Media, that she created to develop various documentary and touring projects. One project was the touring series New Faces, Big Voices that provided the opportunity for artists to get their first chance at national touring exposure. Janine has been recognized by many organizations for her many years of hard work and dedication. Her accolades including Billboard Women in Music, Billboard Power Player, Femme Forward, ASCAP Women in Music, Polestar 50, and the Ebony Power 100 list. So give it up for Janine. We are so thrilled to have you here. Janine and I have also served on the board of the New York Chapter Recording Academy, and it's always an honor to just be in her presence because she is the queen. All right. Tehran Tidwell is Senior Vice President of Private Client Group at Hudson Point Capital and a trusted wealth manager to a growing roster of entertainers, athletes, and creative professionals. With more than a decade of experience in financial services and a background as a successful entrepreneur, Tehran understands the unique challenges and opportunities faced by those in the entertainment industry. He specializes in helping clients turn short-term success into long-term wealth through personalized strategies and financial planning, investment advisory, and asset protection. From managing unpredictable income streams to preserving intellectual property and building legacy wealth, Tehran provides clarity and confidence to clients navigating high-stakes financial decisions. Tehran's mission is to demystify finance for creatives and empower them to take control of their financial future. His approach is transparent, personable, and deeply rooted in education. So, Tehran, thank you so much for joining us. We know you have, the world is a crazy place right now, and you're having to manage a lot of people's money, and in this ecosystem, this climate that we're in, I'm sure that is no small feat. So we appreciate you taking the time to share your wisdom with all of us, because finance, I know for me, and I'm not a creator, by trade, but it already is mystifying to me. So we're all going to learn something here, right, Janine? I think
That's right.
we're all here to learn. So, let's like start from the basics. I think Janine, you're a manager. That term seems obvious, but in our business, as we know, not all managers are built the same, and every manager has a different approach, different skills they bring to the table. So can you break down your role as you see it as a manager and what your day-to-day responsibilities are?
Yes, and you're absolutely correct. Every artist's relationship with a manager is different, but every relationship should be like a partnership. So it's a lot of time spent with the artist, just learning their vision and then learning to bring that vision to life. So, personally, my strength is negotiating. So I am the one that finds out what the artist's real passions are, and even some spaces outside of music. So music, of course, but what are their other passions and desires for brand building and partnerships and other business building that obviously creates longevity for their overall career path. So, I'm very involved with if there is a brand partnership deal, I'll go out and I'll seek it. Something that fits the artist, that's something that's true to, their aesthetic, to their style, to their sensibility. And I will build that out. And I'm always actively hunting for those great partnerships. I've been blessed to do some incredible deals that are not only big building blocks for the artist brand, but also huge financial, chips in their bank account. So that is really a big part of it. I admit it, I'm always chasing the bag. I'm known for that. That is just who I am by nature. Because I think that financial freedom is a beautiful thing to supply to an artist. So I enjoy that part. So I'm always on hunt for that, and touring as well. So I negotiate and bring to the table of our touring deals and have for many years. Even prior to my current position, I had my own touring company eons ago. And I started with my uncle who had his own touring company as well. So I've been creating touring domestic and international for well over 2 decades.
Wow. And that experience alone is so vital, because as historically, that's where artists really make their money, is when they go out on the road, and now they're facing a lot of challenges. It's so, like Tehran and I were talking earlier about just how expensive the world is getting, and doesn't seem to be calming down in that respect. So, that is a roadblock for a lot of artists now, is having to be creative outside of touring to find ways to generate revenue, because touring is not cheap, and you sort of have to be at a certain place in your career to afford to tour, right? Like it's really difficult these days. So that expertise you bring is super valuable. Tehran, can you break down what it is exactly you do? Because I'm sure, that we have a lot of independent creators out there who may think that someone like you is just, only dealing with these high wealth clients and individuals. But can you talk a little bit about why a music client would bring you onto their team, why they would add you on, and what kind of insight they're looking for, or what support they need from you?
Definitely. I mean, first of all, it really starts with building trust with that individual, because we're dealing with almost every aspect of their lives. And so we know that's a huge impact to be able to go into someone's life and dictate certain things. And sometimes you become so involved that they even tell you things that you weren't even prepared to even know about. You didn't wish they didn't even tell you about, but it's basically that's how much they trust you. And so a wealth manager actually deals with a number of different things, starting with, I would say, cash flow for artists or the creatives in that space. They're dealing with fees or famine. When the times they're feasting, they're doing great. Some of them plan for the future, which is the famine, the ups and downs, going through the different cycles that a client would possibly go through. Also they're looking at tax planning. A lot of times, individuals would find themselves in tight situations because they didn't plan for Uncle Sam. We've seen the numerous things with guys having levies or back taxes accumulating, and they don't understand that Uncle Sam is actually taxing you every day that you're late on his money. So dealing with the insurance needs, as we're seeing, a lot of guys are out there. They are a business, and so with that being the case, they don't work for a corporation, so which means that they actually have to go out there. They need to have their own health insurance. They need to put their own disability insurance in place because, God forbid, if they lose their voice, if they're a singer, that's a huge income blow. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is asset protection. Unfortunately, when you become famous, you become a walking liability. Guys see you as a way to go after you to hopefully, as Janine said, chase the bag. And so they see you as that bag. And so we're looking at possibly mitigating those risks, putting different things into place to help protect those guys. Next, we would talk about investing. Unfortunately, when you're doing very well or you're in the spotlight, you're going to have a lot of scam artists come at you, or you're going to have a lot of family and friends come up with the next best idea, which they believe, or they want you to invest in their project or their business, and you become the bank for everyone. So that's something that we try to help assist them with, to guide them. And not to say they can't take care of family and friends, but we want to make sure that they're in the right place. Looking from a position of estate planning, you take a look at Tupac, Biggie, um, Aaliyah. None of us expected them to pass away. I believe all of them were below 30, so 30 years of age. So a lot of times, guys at that age, they're not thinking about that, and it's like, why do we need to talk about that? But unfortunately, in the real world, those type of things actually happen. So, we'll look at, coming on board and helping with that aspect. And then as a business, helping them to grow as a business, diversify their portfolio, and continue to build their brand. So that's, what we will actually do in our position as being part of their team.
Wait, hold on. I got to come off of mute real quick. I had to say, I was trying to get to the chat and say, preach, Teron, preach.
Oh.
And especially when you started talking about becoming the bank, is like, oh, Lord, I've seen so much of that. It's like, oh, okay. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Jamie, you're still on mute. Jamie, you're on mute.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
for having my back. That's how we do teamwork.
That's right.
Um, yeah, I mean that's gee. So when would you bring someone like Tehran onto your team of people?
I I was gonna say everybody needs a Tehran in their life immediately. As soon as you're gonna get that first big check when you're signing that record deal or that pub deal or that endorsement deal, or you're writing a big song that's now going platinum, or anything that is going to get a lump sum check in your hand, a big lump sum check. You have to know what to do with it. You have to know to put money aside for taxes. A lot of people get jammed up. They're like, oh, I have this $1 million check. They don't put aside the tax money, which comes a year later, and then they're not prepared to pay those taxes, and a lot of that money is gone, and then now they're in an indefinite hole. So I say you have to bring in someone with those smart financial skills early, and someone that's going to teach you, because it's not something that we learn in school here in the United States. Unfortunately, you don't learn financial planning and management, asset management, and many creators don't come from, wealthy families, so they're not instilled with that. So you need somebody to teach you so that you're knowledgeable as well.
Yeah, it's all about the guidance. And I think that is really the part that is lacking for a lot of our, and in our industry, unfortunately and fortunately, there's no barrier to entry. So you can have a manager or, whoever it is that really isn't providing any real guidance in that respect, right? They want to get their commission, they're chasing the bag, but they just want to get all the money. And then what do you do with it, right? So
That's
that's
right.
the next step. It's like, okay, you got the bag. What do you do with that bag? And from my experience back when CSAC, I mean, I can't even tell you how many tax liens I saw and holding tens of thousands and thousands of dollars in royalty money because of tax liens. So, and having to pay that to the government. It's really unfortunate. So yeah, planning ahead is so important. And, that sort of brings me to the topic of how unpredictable our, revenue streams are, how income flows in the music business. And, that is really like when you down to the fundamentals of it, like their intellectual property, those songs, that's their asset, right? That's their most valuable asset. And understanding the rights and the ownership of those assets is so important. And can you both sort of speak to that, like, why it is so important for creators to understand the various royalty streams and how they generate and publishing and sort of stretching that out into the future and some, I don't know, how do you approach that with your clients? Like I'm sure Janine, you've seen it all and you've had to clean up messes and you've, had to go in there and tell them to register in the first place, and make sure they're collecting in the first place. Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, fortunately, primarily our clients we work with from a very young age. So, it's we've had the beautiful scenario of being sure that everything's done right early on. But then you obviously have some others that come on a little later in their career that, you do inherit the mess, so to speak. I hate to call it a mess, but it is a bit of a mess. Where as you said,
It
the
is.
songs are not registered. They don't have their side artist agreements aren't done, or they're not signed. They don't have their split sheets done, and then it's hard to chase it afterwards. It is such a challenge. It is so much smarter, as with anything, to have it all done right in the first place. So that's where a little bit of education comes in as well. I mean, and I say this part to creators, and some are very receptive. Some, think it's just boring, nerdy stuff. But it's like you got to read some of the books. You're going into this business that is just that. It's a business. There are these things that you have to know, especially now streaming, which came in brand new to me. Streaming did not exist when I started in music. It wasn't a thing. I had to be educated on streaming. I had to learn. And I tell artists, you have to learn, if whatever, resource is out there for you to understand publishing, understand the difference in the royalty streams, know where the money is coming from, and you will not be duped. You have to understand this business.
And that money that they earn from, all of this royalty income, which can be beautiful passive income, that rolls in, you can use that to build other business ventures that they want to explore. And we know that all of the biggest names in music and, in entertainment, they aren't just making money from one sole revenue stream, right? They've got a variety of business verticals once they've sort of established their foundation of money. And in this case, it could be their royalty income, right? So I guess, Tehran, you're part of the team now and you're helping to guide creators, how important is this idea of like understanding your royalties and that income so you can leverage that and diversify and create even longer term wealth?
Yeah, no, it's very important that the creative understands, where the money is coming from, and also just to piggyback a little bit on what Janine was saying, and I want to put it in a perspective that I think they can understand it a little bit better, or at least visualize it. So imagine that you were a landowner. You own a piece of land, and
Hold
you're
on, hold on,
basically
hold on, hold on,
land
Tehran.
be
Tehran, I'm
writing,
so sorry.
writing your
Tehran,
songs. Now this land
Tehran,
is there and it has nothing on it. So you decide,
you can't hear me.
sure.
Yeah, I was
Tehran,
just saying that you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know I don't know if you have to reposition your phone a little, but we're losing some
Oh,
words and some important words that we need to hear.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm just making
Okay.
you aware of that. I guess you
All
can't
right.
hear it.
Can you hear me loud and clear there?
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
better.
Just try not to move.
Don't move.
Yes.
Don't
Can
even.
you better? Okay. I apologize. So I want to have them rethink about it for a second in a visual context. As a songwriter, you own your song. You've written the song out and you've owned it. And so if you think about it as real estate, the land that you own is your song. And on that land now sits emptiness. And so you're looking at, okay, well, how do I make money from this real estate? So you decide to go out there and you build apartments on that land. You seek out people to come in and invest, to basically come in and be tenants. And so that is basically your royalties coming in on your land, which is your songs. Now, the second part of that job is either you're going to go around collecting the rent, or you're going to go and hire a property manager. So now that property manager is actually your publishing. So if you think about it in that real estate sense, I hope that they can visualize what that is. Owning the land, the real estate is their income coming in, and then the publishing is coming from the manager of the properties. But in dealing with the income streams, one of the things they want to definitely do is that at a minimum they want to have a reserve, and I say 50 to 70%, because you are in the business of feast and famine. So you want to make sure that you can withstand the downside or the rough tide that you're going to go through as a creative on that end. Also, you should be looking at forecasting. If you can go back 12 months or 24 months forecasting, so this way you can get an idea of what the next 12, 24 months will be, and you can plan for that by utilizing that forecasting, and you can plan out how much do I need to put in reserves and then pay myself monthly to cover my essential basis. Also want to make sure that your debt is very low, because at being a creator, you're going to be running through a number of different expenses that we want to make sure that we're able to take care of every month on that diversification. How are you diversifying your income from merchandise, from if you can, if you can maintain deals. So that's another income stream that's coming in for yourself. And then we also want to make sure that we're looking at setting up quarterly tax, or estimated quarterly taxes. So this way, you can get a way to be able to pay that. You won't get yourself in a bad position. Am I still
Yeah,
breaking
you're
up, guys?
breaking
I
up a little bit.
apologize.
And so I'm just gonna sort of go back and try to fill some holes that we might have missed. So you said 70% reserve, right? You said 50 to 70% reserve.
50 to 70%,
And then forecast.
correct. That they can pay themselves monthly from.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, well, I just want to make sure everybody gets these key points. And then as far as the forecasting, 12 to 24 months out.
Yes, that's what he said.
Correct.
Okay.
I turned off my video so I can come through a little bit
Okay.
cleaner.
Hopefully that will alleviate our tech issues for a minute. Um, okay, and then in terms of I think you mentioned merchandising, merchandise as a great source of income. I think there were some other things that we
Correct.
lost in that bit
Licensing,
licensing.
if they can teach, because the thing is they don't want to depend strictly on the royalties. Royalties what we want to utilize as that's going to be there for the essentials. So that's why I'm saying 50 to 70% uh, that they can pay themselves monthly from, so they at least know that the next 12 or 24 months that their basic minimums will be met.
Mm-hmm. Right, just the basic, your overhead costs of rent, studio rent, and
Yes.
these daily things that bills, things that need to be
Could I
covered.
add something? Could I add
Yeah,
something that I
please.
think is important? Which I know that many folks know this already, is also living within your means. Most people they get that big check and they're like, oh look, I'm a millionaire. It's like, no, you're still like 100,000 a year because you got a lot of things to pay. And as Tehran said earlier, it is a feast or famine. So, it's not time to go out and buy the super big house with the crazy big overhead that now you have to chase down monies to keep it afloat. So I tell people to live very conservatively. I lead by example. I live very conservatively. I believe in living below your means. It will give you a lot less stress and you will live a much longer life.
That's great advice. And yeah, I mean, this is oftentimes with artists, with creators, the money's already spent before the money even hits the bank, because there are so many costs that they don't even realize need to be covered, right? So yeah, that is super important. The living beyond your means is not an easy task, but it is necessary to try
And
to
and
keep
they
that.
should also, oh, I'm so sorry, Janie. And also learning to invest in, things that are smart, things that are not so risky. I know, obviously in certain genres, the first thing is like, oh, I got a big check, let me go buy jewelry. All right.
Mhm.
I'm not saying don't enjoy the fruits of your labor. I always say that. It's like you can't do that because then it does not feel like fun. It feels like drudgery, but don't spend all of your money on jewelry that's going to depreciate. I'm a huge fan of buying, a Rolex or two, because they keep their value or appreciate. There are certain, vehicles that will, maintain their value, but most don't. So that's all just a waste. But, properties, real estate, smart properties, and, do the research. Don't just, buy the house that belonged to Mike Tyson. He was trying to sell it for a reason. So don't buy that house. Go buy something smart and you know what I'm
Right,
saying? Like in a smart area. So, like it's gotta be that type of mentality that you have.
yeah, and also don't buy another house before sell the other house, don't
Right.
just accumulate a bunch of houses, right, for no reason. Yeah, that's really good advice. I guess
Things that you can sell when things turn bad.
right. And those are all your assets, right? They're there for a reason. And art is a great investment. Is art a good investment? Seems like a good one to me.
Art art is a great investment. Even wine is a great investment now. So these are different asset classes that they can actually add to diversify their portfolio. And once again, as Janine was saying, you want to invest into things that accumulate, that grows, not depreciate. Because when hard times come, you may not have to sell it, but you can borrow against it. And so if it continues, if it has value that continues to increase, then there goes, an asset that you can utilize while you're still holding on to it, borrow against it until good times come back around, and then repay the loan against it. So there's a number of different strategies that's available.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I kind of want to go back into the branding thing because I think this that topic, I get a lot of questions about that, artists that really want to explore brand partnerships. And Janine, you're a pro at that. So I guess let's say that you have an artist who is has sort of hit a stride. They got their first hit, and maybe some people are starting to knock at the door. What happens once they get that first hit, or that they start to get some traction, a check comes in, they're getting some love. Where do you go from there? Like, what's the strategy that you put into play?
Yeah, the brand building strategy is really it's important, and you have to be on the same page with the artist, the creative, and they have to share your vision. Some are like, oh, let's go get the big check. And I'm gonna throw some brand names out here, not to disparage, but just as examples. So let's say Cricket Wireless, for example. At one time, Cricket Wireless was, offering um, you know, primarily urban artists, deals that were then locking them in that category. The money was but I actually had a few artists, I told them not to do it. I said, it's not really the cachet that's going to help you to continue to elevate. I said, it's not the right thing to do. It takes you out of the category. You can't do AT&T and Verizon, New York, et cetera, like some of the big boys. And not to say that you only wait for the big boys. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, though, especially early on, you want to be very careful of where you're going, because then you have to think about what your next levels and steps are. So you want to do smart partnerships that you can see the vision of going next up. So, Champion is a brand that comes on, they onboard early. Vans is a brand that onboards early with creators. They love that new discovered artist.
Hmm.
And, I like those as early partners. And you make sure that the deal is structured so that you can be free, within 12 months or 24 months and to build. But it's those types of partnerships that help you. If it's a beauty line, for female artists, again, if it's a lower end, you want to make sure you have it out fairly quickly, and they usually do. They usually say, hey, just give us 6 months to a year, so then
Hmm.
you can then be poised and set up to go into the bigger categories with the bigger corporations. So it's a build. It's definitely a build. But one thing I do tell artists, and this is the part where I think they forget, you got to keep that reputation clean. You
Yes.
That means no DUIs, no harassment charges, no blah blah blah. Just go through the list. That is the ultimate importance, because they all have these clauses, and that's what keeps a lot of people out of brand partnership deals, is their, you know,
Hmm.
misdeeds, let's say.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's, we've seen it. We've seen these big brands pull out of endorsement deals, haven't we? So that we know that's not they're no strangers to that, being artists too. Your people are always in your business, so you have to be very careful. It's
Yeah,
also, I was talking to another business manager about, how it's like HR too. You have to
yeah,
constantly have to like manage your team, and making sure they're representing you appropriately as well. Like, it's a whole thing, as the creator being the CEO of their own business, essentially, is a concept that we're always trying to push, because that's essentially what you're doing, right? You have a startup, and you're trying to build it, you're trying to grow it. You're going to hire people on, whether they're your backup dancers or your backup singers or the musicians in your band or your tour manager. Like, everybody's representing your brand. So everyone's got to be careful. Um, so if Tehran, like, I guess, what if they want to create their own line of a beauty product, or a wine or something like that? I mean, we see those pop up all the time with artists, or clothing line or something like that. When is it appropriate to explore those avenues?
Well, I would say basically if they're established, and the reason why I say established, because, and I'm not knocking anyone, but sometimes I see, individuals running around and they have five different businesses going on at one time. And it's like, well, how do you focus on getting that one, to that level to now you can become the mogul? But once you're past that stage and you're established and things are, you're in a great situation, then you should be sitting down, talking with your accountant, talking with your financial advisor, also bringing on board bankers if you're looking to expand your brand, but coming up with a game plan, having that financial plan put together, or at least a concept idea, and talking with your team. So this way now you all can start, I guess you may say, vetting it out, looking at, what would be the resources, what would be the capital that's needed. Will you be bringing on private investors as well, or banks? But you can get started. Once you have a brand that's established, then I think it's imperative that you start, going that route before, not to say your fame is going to die down, but before, while the iron is hot, you want to start looking at, how do I maximize my brand, or how do I take advantage of the opportunities now while people are willing to pick up the phone for me.
Right.
That's
I'm
an
just
excellent
curious.
point.
Yeah, that's a great point, and you have to build off of the momentum, right? What I'm just curious if you've seen people, there's been a lot of I guess especially during the pandemic, a lot of people were selling their catalogs, and that was sort of the way that they were trying to raise money. Um, do you guys have any thoughts on that? I'm just curious. I mean, we're, that conversation is kind of past, but I still think it's relevant because people still entertain these conversations all the time. And I think sometimes they're not necessarily, they're not as well informed on the side of the, on the finance side, where, what are these buyers looking for? Why are they looking at your asset? Can you guys kind of give your thoughts on cattle selling catalog, or keeping it, or partial sales, or any, what are your thoughts?
I'll get into it briefly. I've actually brokered a few of those deals, and it was always scenarios where folks have come to me and said, "Hey, I would like to sell my catalog." For whatever their reasons are, it's not my place, right? But I've brokered some incredible deals, and I made sure though that the person I was looking to sell it, that they knew that this was it. On this particular body of work that you're selling, you will no longer be able to earn off of this. And they were okay with it. They were saying, well, this lump sum of money, this very significant amount of money that I'm going to receive, is going to help me to build my legacy versus um, my family waiting till I'm dead to build, you know what I'm saying, to then live with my legacy. They can, we can build and live off of my legacy now and accomplish and do certain things. And then, God willing, I will create another catalog that will also then build value. So, but then you have some folks that are selling it because they are just down to the dire straits, and they sell it for far less than their value. I'm not a fan of those deals. If you're not going to get the right amount of money, that's truly going to be life changing for you and your family, I say try not to do it.
Yeah. And then what do you do with that money once it comes in? Like, are you just trying to pay bills, or are you actually, is there a strategy once the money comes in, which is, where someone like Tehran can really, be
Right.
help and give some advice. Tehran, have you helped or guided some of your clients through these potential options?
So I haven't particularly done any of those deals, but I'm definitely aware of it. And to Janine's point, you know, I would say please don't sell it, while the value, if you just are selling it because you're in a hard place, I think maybe you should step back and have others take a look at your situation first. Because once it's gone. And that is your legacy.
Hmm.
So, and you want to make sure that it's really you're getting the true value of it and it's going to be life changing, that you're going to be at a far greater place than where you were previously, and not just something for the time being because you're in a hard jam. So, that's where I would take a look at it from. And then if you decide to move forward with it, then you should definitely, before you sell it, start having a plan in place on what is going to be the legacy of this. Like, not guessing once the money start rolling in. You want to have it, okay, this box is checked, that box is checked, this box is checked. So this way you know exactly where the money is going to be going or what projects you're going to be working on. So it's really just staying informed.
Hmm. Yeah, that's super important. And I think there are so many options now, right? Not selling your catalog isn't the only option, which is why it's important to talk to people like yourself and, other financial advisors, professionals who are versed in that. Um, we have a few more minutes. I definitely want to leave some time for questions. Tehran, are there any tools or resources out there for music creatives that you can recommend to sort of sharpen their financial literacy?
Sure. I would say, I mean, there's a host of different apps out there. One is called You Need a Budget. I think it's great for those that are just starting out that, at the end of the day, you need to get a handle on your cash flow. You can utilize Rocket Money. QuickBooks is another one that's out there. Book wise, I would say Music, Money, and Success is a great book as well. Then you have, I believe it's called Financial Brass Knuckles or Brass Knuckles Financial, is a great book as well, just to learn about finance and, not just money, but also dealing with credit and debt, savings and things of that nature, which is going to be, uh, you know, help your business to move forward. So those are some ones that I would definitely suggest that you can at least start tapping into, and then you can find a host of others after that.
Okay, awesome. We'll compile a list and send it out later, so we can all sharpen our financial literacy. I know that I can use some help too. So, um, in terms of, okay, we're kind of all about taking action today. We want to make sure that we're not just listening, but we're doing something, right? So, what is one simple step, Janine, that you can, for creators that you suggest they could take today, to support their financial growth and their long-term success?
Yeah, I'm going to, well, somewhat reiterate what I said earlier is, I would say do some research, learn about all of the income streams, all the entertainment income streams. Do some research and learn about what's new. There are so many new apps that are created every day that are creator friendly to help them to um, make money, basically to increase their visibility to their audience. Obviously more audience means more streams, means more money. So just learn about these different vehicles that are available to help them. This is one thing that just obviously it fits in with a particular creator, but I tell artists that have the ability, learn how to write music, learn how to write a song, learn to be a part of that publishing conversation. You want to be a part of that splits conversation for sure. So that's obviously some people have it, some people don't, but I just say just as an artist, try to be sure that you're on that split sheet every time.
Yeah, that to Tehran's point about owning the land, right? You own a piece of that land and you can build on top of that piece of land whatever you want. So that's where that
That's right.
freedom lies when you're the actual owner of the copyright, the song. Um, Let's see, Tehran, anything on your end? One action step, one thing they can do today when they leave this discussion.
I would say keep your personal and business money separate, no commingling. That creates a huge problem,
Oh,
because
good
a lot
point.
of times people want to utilize, well, this came into my business and my business account, and I'm going to utilize it for personal, the same way. So I would say keep those money separate and set up automatic transfers into your savings and your royalty funds account or your tax account, but put it on automation so this way you don't even miss it or have to bother with it touching it.
That's great advice.
That is
I'm
tremendous
trying to take that
advice.
advice. Yeah. I've been trying to, but because it is so tempting to take that money and use it for personal reasons and financial growth, you need takes financial discipline, right? You got to be disciplined. So, okay, I think we have about 10 minutes. Do we have any, if anybody has questions, please drop them in the Q&A so we can keep track of them. There's one here for Janine. Are you interested in, this is from Christopher Yeps. I don't know if I'm saying your last name wrong, right? Sorry about that. Are you interested in taking on Indigenous-based startup companies? If so, what would the first steps be and your rate?
Well, I always start by saying, let me do some research, right? It's hard to give an answer without having any insight on, what the aesthetic, what the, just what the product is, what the vision or anything else. So I would say, drop me a line, let me check it out. If you have a link, if there's anything, and then I can respond. I would rather give an informed response versus just off the top. But the first, answer I would say is yes. I'm open to anything. Let's take a look at it. Let me check it out.
Awesome. Any other questions? There's nothing in the chat. I'm looking in the regular chat here to see if I missed anything. Um,
That's good. That means everybody that logged on has all of the smarts. They have all the
they
information.
they know what's up. Yeah. I'm
That's good.
impressed.
That's good. That's good. That's
I'm
good.
impressed. Otherwise I'm gonna
Yes.
keep asking questions. Um, okay, well, there's no specific questions in this. Oh, wait, here we go. Um, Ronald Field says, I've been looking into banks to put my money in and looked into Nerve, in parentheses, neobank. Any thoughts about it or traditional banking?
It's
Oh, it's
called
definitely from
Nerve.
Toronto.
Nerve, Nerve, or neobank.
Okay.
Have you heard?
I'm not familiar with the name of that bank, so I don't know if that's an online bank or if it's a traditional walk-in bank. But if you're looking for places to put your money as far as banks, one of the best places to start would be a credit union. And the reason why I suggest a credit union is because their fees are actually much lower. Because for one, they're basically based around their customers. So they're not charging for overhead and things of that nature. Secondly, you can utilize an online bank, but be very careful of which online bank you're using. And the reason why I say that is because lately we've seen a few online banks wind up in a scenario to where funds are there, but people can't access it because of something has happened on the back end with whoever was behind that online bank.
Mhm.
So, you want to be very careful, but, banks, online banks like Ally are great. Um, they could give you a better, higher rate of return than what you can get at your traditional bank because they don't have much overhead to utilize. So if you're just looking for banking, um, I would definitely suggest those two options.
Okay. Is there a way to vet some of these banks that you may not have heard of? Like, do you recommend a certain I don't know. Do you just Google them, or how do you vet the validity of a bank?
Well, first of all, you want to make sure they're really not using like a third party. That's where the trouble comes in at. So Allied Bank is Allied Bank. So if it's a bank, then that's great. But if they are a front or in partnership with someone else, then that's where the trouble can actually happen, because if something happens to that third party, and who's the custodian of your money?
Right.
So that's where you want to make sure is that there's a number from Ally to Goldman Sachs have their online. I forgot their version of it. Um, there's a few different banks that that's solid, that they've been around for eons.
Mhm.
So you can definitely look at those banks. But if it's a third party front, you may want to do some history on that bank.
Okay, good to know. There's a question from Cassandra Kubinski, songwriter extraordinaire. When it comes to collabs, is it common to give the more established artists upfront fees to collaborate on a track, or give them a larger percentage of master ownership because the less established artist expects to drive growth with that type of collab? Have you seen tangible, meaningful financial growth from devising such collabs, track or performing collabs such as co-bills or opening slots on tours?
Okay. Yes. No, let me break it down. All right. So definitely on the touring side, let me start backwards. So yes, it is a super duper dope positioning for a new artist to be out on tour with more established artists. You're going to get fans for sure. You're going to grab some of the attention of those that are there for the other artists, even though they've never heard of you. Now they will, and you will then hopefully be poised to be in the next position in on your own next tour if you continue to do all the things around your career. So touring, I say 100% get on as many stages as you can, and you will build your fan base. As far as the collabs, now there's a little difference of opinion. Some people say that it's not wise for a newer artist to spend a lot of money to get a bigger artist on a feature with them, unless that bigger artist is going to put in the work and help to promote it. They have to agree to be a co-primary artist on it. They have to be in the billing. They have to agree to do social things and whatever the support is around it. Otherwise, you're just giving this artist the money, and then there's no support behind it, and radio is not automatically going to play it just because a bigger artist is there. So you have to make sure that it's somebody that's truly aligned with you and not just taking your money. Now, as far as the split, whatever is going on, you guys have to agree essentially, what works best when you're collabing. Some people want that upfront fee, and some people just say, hey, let me just take a percentage. There is a scenario that I won't say names, but it's a huge record, a record that is over 1 billion streams right now. And when these multiple people went into collab, the primary artist said, you know what, I'm not going to pay you, just take a percentage. And the featured artist said yes, and it's the best thing they could have ever done, because that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, because now they're a part of the multi-billion stream income scenario, versus if they had taken upfront fee and a much 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 teenier tiny fee. So we don't have any crystal ball. We don't know what song is going to reach those ultimate stratospheric numbers, but you kind of got to go case by case.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to your
Back
point.
end is nice.
Yeah, like being a piece of that, getting a piece of the split, the publishing. That's
Right.
back to your point earlier, because you want to own part of the land. Um, okay, I think we have time for one more. What marketing research tools for cash flow do you use that are free and accessible to the public? Tehran, I think that's to you.
Um, I'm trying to think. The, hmm. I, See, the funny thing is, our cash flow is built on the platform that the bank utilized. So I don't know if that's actually usable but I think you can do some of the certain things with like I'm not sure if Mint.com is still around, but Mint.com used to have like their budgeting aspect, and you can tinker with that to do a cash flow projection.
Hmm.
Um, so I can't give you a definitive answer because we're using the company's cash flow uh, site, for that. So it will have to be on a budgeting app or something that you can try to predict or see if you can predict cash flow. But I believe Mint.com used to do something of the sort, but I'm not sure. I don't think they're still Mint.com. I believe they merged with some other company. So I don't want to misguide you on that. But you can take a look and see if they're still there and then see if that app is there. But if you're working with an accountant, they can do it for you. A wealth manager, financial advisor, their platform can do it for you as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think maybe is it Credit Karma? Is Credit Karma and Mint? Because I used to have Mint and then it turned into a different name, like you said. And I think
Yeah,
I
but
started seeing emails from Credit Karma or something like that. I don't know if it's
yeah,
different.
I think Credit Karma doesn't offer like the budgeting aspect, so it's going to be
Right.
hard to get a cash flow, to be able to do a forecast based off of the 12-month or 24-month prior, because they
Mhm.
don't offer the budgeting aspect. So yeah,
Yeah. Okay, got it. All right, well, I think we're at time. So, Tehran and Janine, thank you so much. Again, you're both amazing and just incredible resources. And I'm sure we could offer up, drop all kinds of knowledge all day. But we blocked out an hour and want to be mindful of your busy schedule. So thank you again so much for being here. Thank you to all of our attendees for listening and empowering yourselves and taking the step. And we'll send an email and some stuff on socials with some of the resources and things that we talked about today. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank
thank
you
you.
for having us. Thank you. Thank you. This is
Yes,
so important. And I hope that everybody that's tuned in and so many others are learning about the MLC because that's really where it's at, that people need to be educated with the swiftness. I'm shocked to see how many folks are just not knowledgeable of it. So hopefully people are getting smarter and doing the research.
Yes, if you're not
definitely.
already registered, please go to the MLC.com and register today if you're an independent self-administered, self-published songwriter, or if you have a publisher or administrator, just check in with them. Be the
Yeah.
CEO and make sure everyone's doing their job, right? All right,
Yes.
guys, thank you so much again, and have a wonderful rest of your week. And we will see everybody very soon for the next webinar, educational event, wherever, in person, virtually. Always good to see you guys. So thank you.